Welcome to First Impact, a weekly podcast where we discuss the 90s anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm Jordan, and with me is my co-host Old Jen. Our first episode this week is Rei III, originally aired on March 6, 1996, written by Hideaki Anno and Hiroshi Yamaguchi, and directed by Shoichi Masuo and Masayuki. Old Jen, this episode,
wow,
I would say...
a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, getting real close to the end of the series here, and... the answers are starting to pile up.
Right.
And in piling up are also creating very interesting sort of like mysteries to do with like the origins of characters and the relationships of the people who were involved in the early days of Nerve and all of these sort of shadowy operations going on behind. Essentially, Masada's back, even though she's like the chief of operations.
Yeah, Masada's been sort of played from the start.
Yeah. So this episode opens with an angel attack. Asuka is in a state of depression after her defeat.
She's a loser.
And they've still got Unit 1 on hold. They're unwilling to use it. Gendo's been before Sele to sort of explain what's been going on, and he's trying to keep things from them. And amidst it all, we have this angel attack, which the only person who can sort of respond to it is Rei. And they pretty much lose Rei in that battle. And then we get secret after secret dropped on us.
Man, too much. I felt like Rei getting accosted by the angel. Just
Yeah. Well, now that you bring that up, I would like to sort of
feelings.
I know usually we sort of leave the discussion about the angel to the very end. But I think if we approach it at the start, it sort of feeds into the broader themes of the entire episode.
Well, this battle of this angel battle, the nature of this angel, and it's the way it goes about its business. We're seeing a pattern now that the angel attacks they're wanting to learn. They're not just like crash bang, cross attacks across the board. It's more cerebral. It's penetrating. It's wanting to learn, wanting to invade. The
last two angels have done direct contact
psycho attacks
with the pilots. And we had Zerial, which was like more of a brute force one, but that was really the last angel that was all about strength.
Yes, and that's right. And then after that, it was complete opposite. It was completely
it's
mental.
gone from psychological warfare with a deep probe of Asuka's mind, and now a complete sort of invasion of Rei.
Mind and body.
Which ties in to the name of the angel, which is Armisael, which is the mountain of judgment of God, but is also considered to be the angel of the womb. And there's a lot of
There's an angel for everything.
Angel
for the womb. All right.
They go deep on these angels.
Okay.
There's like a this sort of like visual imagery that they play with throughout Rei's entire sort of confrontation with the angel. First, when it sort of splits apart, so it appears as
like a ring,
as sort of a ring of like
white energy,
almost like DNA, like a double helix.
Oh yeah,
in a loop.
It was X's. Yeah, I said a bunch of X's.
It's like
it is DNA,
like a ring of like a double helix.
Right. Yep.
It splits apart, turns into a sort of solid snake-like beam of light, and whips out and like just penetrates Unit 0 straight through the AT field, and then into the abdomen. And we see that sort of corruption spreading out.
Right.
Yeah.
The core there,
And it's like the previous episode where Rei had contact with an angel like that was with Bardiel, and it was like oozing the goop onto her. And the Evangelion's arm was like, the veins were like flaring up and growing. And then Rei was experiencing the same thing inside the cockpit. Now we get like a full body version of it.
It was really disturbing. You talk about the imagery, real body horror type stuff, like the core opening up and sort of going inside out and all the...
even then, it's like... when at the end of the battle, after sort of like, so Rei's had this thing, it's like completely like it's penetrated the Evangelion, and then on screen we have in big words, just in case you aren't getting the visual metaphor going on here, it says penetrating, and Rei blushes, and then
Oh, she blushes?
Yeah, she blushes when it's happening, like when it first happens.
Yeah, okay.
And they're all like, you know, they send Unit 1 out to fight. And then when Rei decides to retract the angel by reversing her AT field and confining it within Unit 0, the sort of abdomen inflates as if a pregnancy before imploding and then eventually Unit 0 explodes. So like through that entire sequence we have this sort of like visual metaphor of like conception to like pregnancy, and there's the part where the when Unit 1 comes out to fight, the angel like whips out from Rei or Unit 0 because it's like it's like growing out the top of Unit 0 like this horrific sort of like monster. It whips out, and at the end of the tail, now that it's sort of fused with Rei, it appears as a white version of Rei.
Right.
And also, like, all the weird growths on her hand look like tiny versions of herself as well. There's like a lot going on, but Rei speculates that angel reaching out to Unit 1 is echoing her desires to be one with Shinji. So like the entire sequence is like this sort of like coming together of two things and creating something else. You know, like Rei's desire to be with Shinji, the way in which the angel is like trying to make contact with her as well. She has the similar sequence to what she had
that
in the
existential sort of thing
inside Unit 1, and also a very similar sort of conversation that Shinji had with the angel
in the direct sea.
Where it's like, do you want to be, you know, like
to be one
basically
with me?
The idea of like not being lonely anymore.
No, so
and having like connection with someone else, and that's what this angel probes Rei about as well. Like, you're lonely. Don't you want to not be lonely anymore? Yeah,
well, that's what it. Yeah, because I guess so. What is it,
Amasail.
So Amasail has gone into Rei, and what it's found, I guess, most profoundly is that loneliness, is that wanting to connect with Shinji. Probably wanting to connect in general, but in particular with Shinji.
And this realization, like,
it's like seeing your diary. It's like Rei's like deep, darkest desires is just now on display for everyone to see.
Yeah, and this revelation causes her to cry.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah.
We assume, right.
Well, she does comment about how alien the idea of the tears are.
Yeah.
So, before the even halfway through, like before the halfway mark in the episode, Rei's dead. Yeah.
End credits.
And Ritsuko and a nerve team find the entry plug and the charred remains, and they're like, this is top secret. No one knows what we found here.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is
because Ritsuko knows that
they put in place the cover up.
Right, exactly.
Everyone's now in a state of mourning. Shinji is at home.
He's shell shocked. He says he can't cry.
Yeah, that he knows he's sad, but the tears won't come.
Yep.
And Masato tries to comfort him, and I think you get this like, I don't know. I think it's ambiguous. I think it's intentionally so, but it's like a throwback to the flirtiness of Masato from those early episodes.
Doesn't that just seem like a world away now?
Yeah,
those early episodes, like that Masato.
And that's why I think it's an allusion to it, but not what Masato was offering. I don't think Masato is offering anything other than someone to be there,
right?
Like in a comforting way.
Yeah.
And Shinji was projecting on her flirtiness from before,
right?
Because he pulls away from her as if he thinks that she is like putting the moves on him.
Yeah,
and I think that's his fears projecting onto her. I don't think it's Masato like, oh, this is all I can do for you. He's like, fuck you, Shinji. Like, I think it was more she tried to be there as like someone who's comforting him in this tragedy, and his own sort of like hang-ups,
right?
He projected them onto her because she does leave, and she's like, you know, is he like afraid of women?
Yeah, I was about to say, do you think Masato understands his reaction?
I think her questioning, like, is he afraid of women, or is he afraid of like being intimate, like not necessarily in a sexually explicit way, but like just in intimacy,
right?
Like that they are grieving someone together, and he's rejected the idea of someone trying to be like sharing in that grief.
It is. I didn't expect them because I know in the early episodes I would joke, sort of jokingly, you know, talk about Masato being a sex pest and she's fucking pen all this sort of stuff. her creeping up on Shinji, and then that went away, and then we moved on to other.
I feel like that
things.
Front, which is what it was, is gone.
Yes, but it's interesting that it's that whole first part of Masato, or our experience with Masato, has sort of come back in this little sequence, but. Yeah,
but we have more context now.
Way.
We sort of see now.
Funny that they brought it back
after all these episodes. It allows us to look back at the Masato who was very flirty with Shinji, as being nothing more than like a front. That was a sort of bubbly persona that she put on to hide her past trauma,
right?
To sort of like
and we always suspected that. There's got to be something deeper,
because I'd say from the majority of the series we've seen a Masato who's very compassionate, is very sort of like in control, in command, and as the series has gone on, started to question her role in Nerve and what Nerve has been doing behind her back, but always still as someone who felt quite determined and like driven by her own sort of like beliefs, which is why she's even had come into contact with what Nerve is doing, because she did sort of dare to question.
Well, that's all she's had for the last little while. We've talked about how sort of alone Masato's been, like no allies.
Yep.
Ritsuko, her and Ritsuko haven't been sort of on the same wavelength.
Yeah, they had this sort of like weird standoffishness, even in very early episodes. The friendship is there, but it's a standoffish
it's more like
sort
a memory
of relationship.
Of a friendship.
Yeah.
It was only really when sort of Kaji got introduced that
he tried to push that like sort of old
the old gang's back together again. But
well, speaking of Kaji, his sort of ghost lingers over the entire episode.
Yeah, it's true.
And like Masato still grieving his loss, waiting by the phone for a phone call that's never going to come.
No.
And then eventually by the end of it, Kaji sort of like the memory of him pushing her to actually seek answers, and he's left enough information for her to make a move on that
in the pill.
Yeah, this tail end of the episode, they destroy Unit 0 to save Shinji.
Yep.
Destroying the angel in the process. And Seilei, as we've seen at the start of the episode, with some pretty harsh criticism of Gendo, and even speculating that it's time to replace him.
That's right.
That he's no longer fit for command.
Well, the way that the Seilei guy sort of said it was, okay, we lost Unit 0, and then he said something else, and he's like, now this is sort of finally justification that we can get rid of Akari.
Yeah, because they've spent the majority of the series concerned that he's running his own angle.
Yeah, right.
And they've had the, like, Kaji at one point was the double agent, and he was feeding them information. So, like, they're aware of that Gendo's up to something.
Yeah. It seemed like they've wanted to get rid of him for a little while, but I don't know, for whatever reason, they didn't want to have.
Well, because he was still getting results.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's what it was. It's like, not like, here's an excuse. Like, they don't have to justify to anyone.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. They're the top.
It's more like, we have an excuse, as in, he's no longer delivering results. Now we will get rid of him.
How could you replace Gendo?
Well, I think they mentioned Fuyutsuki.
Right.
But that unsure of, like, it needs to be someone who's in the know.
Yeah, that's what,
but not loyal to Gendo.
Yeah, but Fuyutsuki, you'd think Fuyutsuki would be very loyal to Gendo.
Well, the results of sort of this discussion and demanding a new human sacrifice, Gendo is supposed to deliver Rei, but he chooses instead to send Ritsuko, who has a very bizarre sort of like humiliating, an attempt at humiliation, sort of confrontation with Seilei. We don't see the tail end of that conversation.
No, we don't really.
But the results of which, finding out that she was sent in Rei's place, send Ritsuko on a sort of a course that leads to the end of this episode.
Yeah, it's true. So you think she was pissed off that Gendo chose to send her to be sacrificed?
He chose her over. Oh, he chose Rei over her.
Oh, right.
Because this is where we get some hints about. Later on, she mentions that she's a fool, just like her mother. We get hints of her relationship with Gendo.
Yeah,
that she may have been getting the dirty from him as well. And
Gendo's got. We talk about Gendo's got. He's the ultimate multitasker. He's got his fingers in all the pies.
We mentioned in the past the sort of costume design and art direction of certain characters in the absence of other characters.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, Asuka was wearing Masato's clothes when Masato was doing overnight shifts. Here's something else now that we've sort of had this... Drop even more knowledge. Now that you're aware that Ritsuko and Gendo have possibly had a relationship in the same way that her
mother... the lab coat? No?
No.
All right.
Ritsuko doesn't wear makeup when Gendo's not at Nerve.
Oh.
So if you go back and look at some of the episodes where Gendo's like in the Antarctic retrieving the lance, or the episodes where he's gone interstate to speak with Seilei or something like that, Ritsuko isn't wearing makeup.
I don't know, man.
It's just a subtle thing because she doesn't wear a lot of makeup, but she has eyeliner and lipstick is how she's drawn.
Yeah.
But when Gendo's not there, she has a distinctly plain sort of look to her face.
Right.
Like she's only concerned about looking a certain way when Gendo's there, or the possibility of Gendo being there is there. Oh, and so now we're getting like all these sort of character dynamics. That sort of like her looking at the picture of her as a high schooler. And Gendo standing behind her mother, and Gendo's just got that look like, yeah, I'm fucking your mum.
He always has that face. He's got the perfect face for it.
Yeah, that is his default expression.
Yeah, right. You know how you got...
goes into... That's why Seilei is actually so unsettled by Gendo. Because they just look at him and he's like, fuck my mum.
That's why they moved to the audio only.
Yeah, they didn't want to see his face anymore.
Yeah. You know how people have resting bitch face? Gendo's got resting sex pest face.
Resting I fucked your mum face.
Yeah. Can you imagine the creative force behind this series having to tell his animator, all right, I want you to draw Gendo. This is character. He's called Gendo, something like that. I'll work out the details later. Basically, his default face, that's what I'm saying. His default face is going to be, I fucked your mum. Can you do this? And the dude's like, absolutely. I've been waiting my entire career. Yeah, he nailed it. Props to that guy.
Yeah, this entire sort of like tail end of the episode is crazy.
Yeah, we got to talk about this.
Of like revelations.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So we have the Eva graveyard.
Yeah.
Of all the failed experiments.
No, Shinji's like, so it's an Eva graveyard. Like, he sums up Ritsuko's, explanation of the situation very poetic. So it's a graveyard. He's like, no, it's a garbage dump.
Yeah.
You stupid kid.
Also where your mum went missing. You remember that? You little pissant?
Yeah, Shinji's like, well, I sort of blocked it out until now.
Yeah.
Rich-chan.
That whole the horrible memory is slowly coming back.
Thanks for that.
Then we go and see the dummy plug system again, and we find out that Rei is actually a series of clones,
right?
And that only the Rei that they've interacted with is the one with a soul,
right?
And that all these other ones are like dolls. They're devoid of soul,
right?
And those sort of like empty shell ones are used as the dummy plug system.
Yeah, for the cause.
Yeah, so this is why Rei spends time in that tube. Is because they have to imprint her soul onto these dummies.
Right.
Which they then insert into the dummy plug system.
So Right. So they put so that's what they're doing when she's in that tube thing.
Yeah, they're like making a copy.
Okay, but copy physically?
Of like her soul.
Her soul.
Yeah, they have these empty shell bodies.
Right, okay.
And then...
That they can just clone for whatever.
Yeah, they can just make those.
Okay.
And then there's like... Rei, who has a soul.
Yeah.
And then they make a copy of that.
They need the soul for the dummy plug.
Yeah, like all of the others are failures. That's what Ritsuko says. Like
right.
They're empty husks, and that only one has a soul.
You think that... Okay, so they were... Right, so they were wanting to... They were making all these Reis, and the object was to eventually make one with a soul?
Yes.
That's what they were trying to do this whole time?
Gendo was trying to recreate Yue.
Yeah.
Because they're like clones who bear resemblance to Yui.
Right. You think he was doing it for this Evangelion unit reason, or because of his...
I think
wanting
Rei came first, and then the use for the copies came second.
So he was wanting to bring back Yui.
Yeah.
Just because it's his wife.
And then realised he couldn't. That he could just make a clone, but not her.
Right.
And... the sort of all the failed ones they found a use for.
Right.
By creating the dummy plug system and then copying the one with a soul onto those dummies.
Seilei brings in Gendo for a job interview. Right. They're looking for the head of End of nerve. Look, we're trying to this human instrument as something, we're making these Evangelions. There is angels. We need something to fight them. We're thinking like we're gonna go for a humanity sort of angle. We need something with a human. With cloning, something, right? And Gendo's like, well, I have been trying to clone my dead wife. I got all these.
No, they were all working for Nerve together. Before it was called Nerve.
I got all these empty wife bodies in my garage.
You're getting your timeline mixed up, old Jen.
Whatever, dude. It's all in there.
This episode ends with Ritsuko destroying all those clones.
Yes.
And so now we have sort of...
How did she do that?
Some sort of failsafe built into them, I guess.
All right.
They all
I dismissed
she pressed a button and they all started deteriorating. So I would just say it's like failsafe.
Okay.
So now the only Rei left is the third Rei.
Yeah, right. So when this one
which
goes...
she speculates when Shinji goes to visit Rei, who has made a miraculous recovery, we sort of find out that even she's aware of her true nature. She speculates out loud that I'm the third.
Yeah.
And then she goes home and sees Gendo's glasses and tries to break them at first.
Yeah, that was
and then stops and starts crying. So she's sort of how much of the previous Rei is
obviously
is
some
in her.
has carried over.
Yeah, because she's like, I don't recognize these tears, but they feel familiar to me.
Right.
And Rei, the first time she cried was in the previous sort of version of Rei, before she self-destructed. How good is that shot of Unit Zero?
Yeah.
And she's about to self-destruct, and she imagines Gendo reaching out to her like he did when he saved her.
Yeah, right.
And she stands up and she sort of like, you see Unit Zero reach up as if reaching for Gendo.
Yeah.
And then momentarily it takes the form of like a white Rei with a halo. And then explodes.
Yeah, right.
Like just a beautiful shot.
It was straight imagery, yeah. Just a quick point on the sort of cashing in or how well the writers have done, because I talked about how sort of gross and disgusting that whole, the core exploding and imploding.
The angel sort of warping and twisting out.
But it was, when I watched it, like if I hadn't seen this whole series and just walked in on you watching it, I thought, oh yeah, that is kind of gross. But I wouldn't have the context. It'd just be like gross on a superficial level. Oh, it's grotesque. It's, whatever. But this, like, after having seen the series, I'm like, that's gross, but like on a deep, disturbing level, because it's like humanity like sort of crystallized. It's like DNA. It's humanity. It's an invasion of the self. It's sex. It was like an attack at the deepest
it's
core.
Like body horror, but extending not just to like the physical form,
to like
changing.
The psyche level.
Yeah, like it was her psychic impression of herself warping as well.
Yeah, it was so well done to this whole series for like getting me that razzed up.
I think this series is really sort of defined by this sort of like haunting moments that like the imagery is just so on point.
Yeah.
And like either calls back to earlier episodes or twists things in like really interesting ways that sort of leave you with something that like like, some of it just leaves you speechless.
Yeah.
The last thing that happens in this episode is after Ritsuko's destroyed all the Rei clones, she begs Masato to kill her.
Right.
Because of like everything that's done, how she's been played by Gendo.
Yep.
And sort of knowing now that she's done this, that there's no sort of coming back. And Masato just sort of, you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, right.
And just leaves her at that.
That's the worst punishment.
And now we're sort of like poised in this really interesting position where it's all coming to a head. We sort of have an eye. Even Shinji knows the true nature of Rei now.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
yeah, what's their relationship?
All these characters who have been held in the dark are finally out now, and we're sort of like racing to that conclusion.
That's
the last
angel.
Is this the last angel?
That's what Sele dude said.
Yeah, Sele believes this is the last angel, and will
they be proven right?
Who knows?
Yeah, everything's like you said. I think that's a good. Everything's out in the open. Everything's sort of raw. But not out in the open as in closure. I mean, yeah, a little bit, I guess, but it's out in the open. It's raw. It's Yeah, it's like exposed, like an exposed nerve. That's what it feels like we're at the moment. Oh, fuck. Not nerve. Oh, wow. God, I wish that was deliberate. Not nerve as in the company, but yeah, it feels raw. Raw.
Our second episode today is The Beginning and the End, or Knocking on Heaven's Door, originally aired on March 13th, 1996, written by Hideaki Anno and Akio Satsukawa, and directed by Shoichi Masuo and Masayuki. This episode focuses primarily on a new character who's introduced very late into the game.
Yeah, I was not expecting a new character.
Yeah, so this is the fifth child sent by Seilei to replace Asuka after she's hit rock bottom.
Sync rate 0.
Yeah, she's run away.
Self-esteem 0.
At the start, we have a flashback to a sort of like a nightmare sequence of her remembering finding her mother.
Yep, that's right.
And we get sort of like a real summation of the sort of life that they led, the sort of emotional sort of estrangement that she felt from her mother when her father left them, and then the sort of horror of finding her mother, who'd hanged herself. From there, we find that Asuka's been running away, and the intelligence division has been like out,
for like 2 weeks,
recovering her, very much like they did with Shinji.
That's right. In the when he
the fourth episode. It was the fourth.
Yeah. When he and Kensuke were having their little camping trip.
Yeah, and she this is like a sort of follow on from how she's been hanging out at Hikari's house. Yeah, avoiding going home.
Yeah, right. Playing video games.
We also have that just before we find that she's now just like sitting in a bathtub in an abandoned house. Yeah. There's like a real quick sort of like scene between that where she and Shinji have a confrontation at home about like Kaji being gone.
Oh yeah, Shinji's like, just accept that Kaji's gone.
Yeah.
But Shinji assuming that it's all because of Kaji.
Yeah.
It's not all about that.
No, it's her pride.
Her whole being.
Her sense of being, and all of it being shattered and pulled apart from the angel attack, but before that, her humiliation against Zerial. You know, like this is all sort of coming to a head.
She hasn't had when we spoke about this, we spoke about Asuka and is she gonna bounce back? No, not so far at least. This
episode. Later on in the episode, you get a glimpse of her, and she's catatonic.
Yeah, she's
just in the bed, in the hospital bed, just like zoned the.
That's
fuck
right.
out.
They're like what? Yeah. It's when the new character, Kaoru, is in Unit 2, and his Unit 2 is activated, and they're like, wait, is it Asuka? No, and then they go to the feed. No, Asuka's in hospital, and
she's fucking catatonic,
looking at the ceiling. Even Shinji, because Asuka sort of went haywire soon after Shinji came out from, when he got turned into quantum soup. Yeah. And then was rematerialized. And he bounced back pretty soon after. Yeah. Asuka...
But his was like a self-actualization.
Yeah, that's what... that's true.
Him reconstituting himself was him finding himself in a way. This episode, because even though what happens to Asuka is huge, this episode's focus is on Kaoru and his interactions with Shinji primarily. So he's been sent by Seilei. He's some sort of like wunderkind. Yes. Like he can jump into a entry plug and just sink at whatever he wants.
That's right.
With any Evangelion that he wants.
He's like Wim Hof. Wim Hof is that dude who can swim in like freezing cold temperatures. Oh, right. He can arbitrarily raise and lower his heart rate.
Right, okay.
Continue.
Without any core, he's able to sync with the unit. They don't have to recalibrate it for him.
That's right.
And by doing so, he has basically well and truly sealed Asuka's fate, kicked her out of her position as the pilot of Unit 2. Yep. But then with his interactions with Shinji are sort of the primary focus.
Yeah, right.
So before he actually gets in the sync tube, he's introduced in a scene where Shinji's sort of like...
by the water,
pondering, sort of reflecting on things by the sea, all the ruins and everything.
Yeah, right. And because we've seen the effects of Rei's Unit 0 self-destruction.
Yep, the new lake.
you like Kensuke and Toji have left.
Yep. Oh yeah, Shinji is alone.
Yeah, Shinji's alone.
Masato has become distant because of Kaji and everything that's happened.
And her quest for the truth.
Yep. Asuka's like, she's gone emotionally.
Yeah, Rei's dead and come back, but doesn't sort of remember
a different Rei.
Yeah, right.
And his actual friends, Toji and Kensuke, are gone. Yeah. They've been moved away because of... It's just too much to live in
even got packed away, put in a...
How heartbreaking. Masato saying goodbye to...
Just Tenpen. Stuffed him in a FedEx box and like... stabbed some air holes. Family. Yeah, right.
Because it's too dangerous here. There's this real sense of like impending danger that everyone is starting to make their moves. Seilei are trying to quicken the pace.
Yes, well that's why we get this Kaoru character.
Yeah, so they're quickening the pace. Gendo's starting to make his move. And amongst it all, Shinji finally comes across a character, like another person who offers him sort of like something he hasn't really experienced yet, which is like what I would say is unconditional love.
That's true. Immediate unconditional. Yeah, right.
It's, for a show in the 90s, extremely progressive in the sense that like I don't think Kaoru and Shinji's like relationship is played anywhere. Like it's not like...
It's not salacious.
It's not played for weird outness or anything like that. It's like a very progressive view in the sense that like Kaoru, who we find out is an angel, takes the form of a guy and is very upfront about his feelings for Shinji. Very much puts the moves on Shinji, and Shinji reciprocates in kind. Like,
Shinji wants intimacy.
Yeah, and
in whatever form it is,
like it's a genuine connection.
That's what
between the two.
This series has explored that in multiple ways now.
Well, that's very much the drive behind a lot of what Kaoru says to him, which is
humans.
This idea of like...
How many times does he say humans? My goodness.
Yeah, right from the start. Very huge clues to his unearthliness. But that idea of like separating your heart and being lonely and defining existence through that loneliness, because like having a heart and opening it to people, it sets you up for betrayal.
That's what the AT field is for.
Yeah, we get so many revelations in this episode about the nature of the angels, humanity, Seilei's plans, the sort of like Gendo's parallel but dark versions of Seilei's plans.
Yeah.
I guess like
a lot to unpack.
I think Gendo's like sort of drive in comparison to Seilei is like very much individualistic.
Yes, Yui.
Whereas like Seilei is this like sort of broad like humanity sort of thing. And we're seeing those two differences in plan coming.
Let's talk
blows.
about their plans, explicitly, basically. So Gendo speaks for the first time to Unit 1, like as Yui. Yes. So that's pretty sort of clear now.
That like that's a confirmation that Unit 1 is the essence inside it. The soul is Yui. That's what happened to her.
Right.
She was absorbed into its core.
Yep.
His hand. At first we don't know what's going on there.
Oh yeah, the hand. Yeah.
It's got like eyes and weird growth. Seilei later refers to... Is it Seilei or is it Kaoru? Either way, someone states that Gendo has taken Adam into himself. So he's fused Adam into his hand.
Fucking Gendo, man. I fear that Gendo's flying too close to the sun, man.
We also find out that the thing hanging on the cross, well and truly confirmed, not Adam. It's instead Lilith.
Right.
And that humanity was born from Lilith.
Right, the
progenitor. And that the angels were born from Adam. And that the Evangelions are, in a way, like humanity's like creations of Adam, that they themselves are like based off angels.
Yes, right.
That these are all the elements that tie each other together. Also, the reason why the Evangelions are bound with restraints is because they're like angels.
They're angels. Yeah, right. Okay. So what is Adam? So if the thing on the cross is Lilith, have we seen Adam?
Yeah, Adam was in the embryo.
Adam is the embryo.
Yep.
Yeah. Is it still an embryo?
No, it's in Gendo's hand now.
It's in Gendo's hand. Right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we also find that Seilei, I think, heavily implies that they know that Kaoru is an angel, and they've sent him explicitly to push forward the events.
Right.
And he believes that he's going down into terminal dogma to fuse with Adam. But when he gets down there, he finds out that it's Lilith.
Yeah.
And he sort of pieces together what's going on. And in also discovering that that's not Adam, he gives up.
Yeah, right.
And allows Shinji to kill him.
squash him.
Because he can either continue to live or he can continue to die. All that matters is that he made the choice.
Man, he lived fast, he lived hard. This Kaoru was a flash in the pan.
Yeah, he made one hell of an impression on Shinji.
Yeah.
Offered him unconditional love, sort of showered him in affection, and that Shinji's never experienced before. No. And then at the end of it...
like a summer romance.
Yeah, and then Shinji is forced at the end of it to be the one who kills Kaoru. Masato is very... well, Shinji says, "You're very cold, Masato." But the way she's like... he's like, "I should have been the one who..." Or like, Kaoru should have been the one who survived. And she's like, people who don't have the will to live don't deserve to survive.
Let's talk about the pacing of this episode, because it went super quick.
It's probably like the briskest in terms of like editing. It really felt like the show's been sort of defined by these sort of ponderous shots that really help you feel the mood of the show. Really set the tone. And in this episode, there's a sequence where like Rei is like wondering out loud about like her existence, what she is, and it's like these rapid cuts between like her, the things she's thinking about, and cutting back, and it's just sort of like constantly moving you through that episode. Like Kaoru, like he's introduced via like humming the song. Later, like. Yeah, then later on we find Shinji's listening
to it. He's just totally fangirling over this Kaoru guy.
Yeah, he's completely like
You like Ode to Joy? I listen to that every night, man.
He's like completely enamored by this character, and like I think
are we meant to be as well?
When he makes this introduction with like such a sort of poetic line about how music is like the Lilim's like greatest sort of like achievement.
Music.
And then Shinji's like so sort of wrapped up in that like that notion that like later on he's like listening to the song. And I think Shinji's way of trying to like sort of get a little bit like get to know Kaoru a little bit more.
Do you think this Kaoru guy being an angel, because he talks about music being humanity's greatest achievement.
Yeah.
Shinji's into music himself.
Yes.
Well, he plays the cello, but only because he's never been told to stop. But he listens to music every night.
Well, yeah, and like Kaoru's first appearance, he's humming Ode to Joy, as you said.
Yeah, but...
like a classical piece, and as a a celloist. Like,
how do not start a violin versus cello war on this podcast, man.
I misspoke.
Careful what you say.
As a celloist,
gotcha.
Like,
I'm just
a lot of Shinji's repertoire would be classical music.
Is it coincidence? Is what I'm getting at.
Right.
Do you think Kaoru, went with that line to get at Shinji? If Shinji was into something else.
Well, that's the thing about Kaoru. Like, I don't think any of his motivations beyond like being an angel and being driven to like make contact with Adam and cause third impact. I don't think any of his motivations with Shinji are manipulative.
Not malicious, but he did say, remember at the end, that he needed Shinji to destroy Unit 2.
Yep.
So there was always an element that Kaoru needed Shinji with it part of his plan. Maybe plan is the wrong word, but his purpose, I guess Kaoru's purpose was to bring Shinji sort of down there. So I don't know, maybe the music thing, I don't know. If Shinji was into Digimon, would we've heard the line, Digimon is humanity's greatest achievement? I don't know, I'm just wondering.
This episode has so much going on. It's almost impossible to know where to like bounce around between. There's confirmation of Ritsuko and Gendo's relationship, which we had talked about as being like very heavily implied. This is like just straight up like, just, fuck me like you used to.
Yeah, right.
Just do something with me because I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck's going on anymore. Yeah. Like, my cat died. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I feel like just as useless and like out of sorts as her mother, like who also was like so like on the hook with Gendo that she like ended up being driven to madness with Rei and everything like that.
Right.
He's using everyone with this end goal of finding Yui again.
You think his like, whatever he has with
this human
Ritsuko is part of that?
This like, I think he's just using her. I think it's like
to keep her close to
as a physical use, like his own personal needs.
Right. I guess an outlet, at the end of the
because he keeps all these women at a distance.
It's true.
They're like these brilliant minds that he uses for their talent and their science, and what they can contribute to his plan, but then he also uses them as like a sexual gratification.
But that's
the
true.
whole time he keeps them emotionally at arm's length.
That's true. And do you think
he sort of made his mind up about what his
start.
concerns are, to the point where like he would discard a child who doesn't directly
help
affect him.
Yeah.
Or as you said, help his plan. Shinji is of no use if he won't pilot Unit 1.
Right.
In the same way that like the only thing like person that he seems to have any sense of care for is Rei, and Rei is a clone of Yui.
And Rei is that's true, and Rei is also by definition integral to his plan.
Well, now we're also getting a lot of sort of parallels between Rei and Lilith. Because, well, she's like Lilim, like everyone.
Yeah.
Well, now we get this idea that like humanity was born from Lilith and the angels were born from Adam. And at one point, Kaoru refers to Lilith as being the false progenitor.
Oh man, that whole moon stuff.
Yeah, so
my mind, dude.
I don't know how much is obvious to you at this point.
None.
But the idea is that like the geofront,
okay,
was
I'm liking this. Go on.
Is the black egg.
Okay.
Which collided with Earth and created first impact.
Okay.
And that's how life started.
Oh, all right.
Was through Lilith. And that the moon is the white egg.
Right.
And that was Adam.
Okay.
So Lilith beat Adam to the punch.
Oh, okay.
And then they found Adam dormant, and they tried to like awaken him, and utilize his power, and that resulted in second impact. Which it's like Adam was like a more of a destructive force, which is why it creates angels that are destructive, whereas Lilith was this like being that created humanity.
Okay.
Is sort of my interpretation of like those sort of like passing things that Kaoru says about that the lance was like, the lance is essentially a method by which you can stop a process from happening.
Yes, we saw that there. They stopped Adam, or now we know Lilith.
They stopped its growth by using the lance, because we know this like the purpose of the lance now from the conversation with Gendo and Fuyutsuki, that they had intentionally used the lance against the angel to get it out of central dogma.
Right. Yeah.
Or terminal dogma.
Yeah.
So they got the lance out of the picture by throwing it into space. Yeah. With under the guise of like, we had to. There was no other way to destroy that angel. And Seilei, that's why they're so concerned about what Gendo's doing, is because they know he's sort of gotten rid of one of the keys that they needed for their plan.
Okay, let's talk about Seilei's plan.
Well, they're human instrumentality, so we don't really truly know what that is.
No.
And we're starting to work out that like what third impact is might not be the same as second impact.
Right. Yeah.
And that it definitely has something to do with, I think, human instrumentality. The idea is that it's controlling third impact. Because Masato already put together that the purpose of Nerve is not to stop third impact.
No, yeah, we know that.
She'd already worked that out in previous episodes.
Yeah, right.
The scene where Shinji crushes Kaoru.
Yep.
And he's like holding him for that extremely elongated shot where...
Yeah. Like, especially given the context, we've said the pacing of this episode in particular was very bang, bang, bang.
It was so quick. And
that's got to be deliberate,
the one
right?
sort of held shot is this like... languishing, like agonizing moment of Shinji, I guess, wrestling with himself whether he's going to do it or not. Right. But it's all done with this like very stone-faced Unit 1, locked in position. Kaoru already made the decision.
The unit's
to die
like,
by...
just give me the order, Shinji, man. Just give it to me.
Yeah, like Kaoru's already made the decision to die, so he's not doing anything, and it's just this frozen image of Kaoru in Unit 1's grip.
Yeah.
And, we hit that sort of climax, cuts to black, and then the head drops into the LCL.
During that wait, that we were waiting for something to happen, I was thinking to myself, like, it's been held this long. How are they going to end this and it not be comical?
Right.
That's what I was thinking. Like, how are they gonna? But they did it. Like, it didn't.
There's
it was a shock.
Where I think
I was expecting to laugh
into absurdity.
Yes.
Because of how long it holds.
Yes.
But then that cutting to black, and then you're like, oh, is that the end of the episode? And then it cuts almost immediately back to show the head dropping into the water, and like, all right.
What a weird,
landing stuck.
What a weird thing.
It's interesting the sort of relationship that's going on between Masato and one of the command personnel.
Oh yeah,
Hyuga.
Yeah.
He's got this like. I feel like of the three, he's been the one that like him and Masato always sort of have like the outside of work conversations about work.
True. Remember,
like they're always in like a different scenario. He's like the one who would report to her.
Yeah.
And then now we see the sort of that all coming to fruition where he's finding extra information and he's stealing data from other people.
Intelligence department.
Yeah.
We see a bit of intelligence versus tactical inter-nerve departmental
because we're really getting this sort of like to the nitty-gritty where it's like Masato is like embroiled in like all sorts of like covert operations to like just stay afloat and figure out what's actually going on here because like the intelligence division reporting to Gendo like they're running something that like very few people are privy to, and
Masato sort of put together that the intelligence division was pretty slow in tracking down Asuka. Also, this Hyuga, is that what you said his name was?
Yeah.
Remember a few episodes ago now, he was the one who playfully said, I can't remember what it was, in what context, he compared something to Masato.
Oh, Unit 1.
Yeah, Unit 1.
Yeah. How it never gives up.
Yeah, right. And then he's like, sort of like you, Masato.
Oh, no, it doesn't do what you expect it to.
Yeah. Doesn't,
Well, yeah, that's sort of like...
they have more of a rapport
their little sort of like camaraderie going on. And...
So you're saying that the girl with
She really seemed to be like, a lot of that is based around like having him on the hook. Like, because he makes that remark about like being in love with her.
Yeah.
Or like anything for your sort of business. And
as long as you're here, or as long as I'm with you, or something like that.
And she's just like, because you're on the hook.
She's got a bit of Gendo in her, man.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is like the end game. She's like using whatever is at hand.
Yeah.
And, like if it's manipulating one of her sort of like, if she can use one of her subordinates sort of affection for her, then she's doing that, because like we've sort of seen that Masato never really got over Kaji. And, and then just as they start to really form that relationship again, he's like gone.
Yeah, right.
And now we're getting a very cold Masato who's just like, she's fighting to the end.
Right. Yeah. God, the end
spying on Kaoru, trying to work out like what he's up to. And she sees like, I think we just got to touch on at the very end here.
Right. That
strange meeting with Kaoru and Seilei, where he's sort of like confirming a lot of their fears about Gendo.
Right.
And seeing like that their knowledge of him, like probably as an angel, just absolutely bonkers. Like I didn't know the Seilei could appear anywhere as holograms.
Yeah, right. I wonder, and I said to you while we were watching, I'm wondering why the Seilei dudes have not appeared in physical form, like in the flesh, for ages now. I'm just wondering...
And arguably never appearing in physical form because of the... they've always appeared as holograms.
Yeah.
They're just not using a human form anymore.
Which is weird. I don't know. Are they undergoing some sort of transformation?
I think that'll just about do us. I've been Jordan, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at It's Got Stealth. Old Jen.
Call me Pen, dude. I'm gone forever.
Thanks for listening.